What's up, everyone? We are your co-hosts. I'm Rob Nunnery, joined by my better half, Malin Doty, here in the studio, and you are listening to the Clarkonomics podcast, the show that explores the ripple effects that Caitlin Clark is having not only on women's basketball, but on women's sports as a whole. In today's episode, we'll share a little about who we are, why we're starting this show, and go into Caitlin's unprecedented career at the University of Iowa. Just a fair warning, this show right now as it stands is terribly edited by myself. It's rough, it's raw, but just stick with us. We'll make it worth it, but let's get into it.
It's the Clarkonomics podcast. I'm Rob.
I'm Malin.
And the name speaks for itself. What are we doing here?
Well, Rob, I'm glad you asked. Throughout the last 4 years, I've been following this journey of an incredible young woman. Her name's Caitlin Clark. She is Iowa homegrown and raised. She attends the University of Iowa, which is also my alma mater. Go Hawkeyes. And we're here because somebody needs to start. I mean, we're all talking about her. We're all talking about Caitlin Clark, but nobody is dedicating their life to being her super fan. Quite like I am, in a very non-creepy way, but just in a way that I want to talk about her accomplishments off the court. I want to talk about what is she doing in Iowa City in her spare time? Where is she going? What's her favorite place to eat?
Yeah, but not to the point of
Stalking.
Of like, we might see you there.
But we might. Just a little bit of background. I grew up in the great state of Iowa, as Robert knows. I went to Iowa City, Regina, up until 9th grade. Then I went to boarding school. That's neither here nor there. But Iowa City is home. It will always be home. The community in Iowa City is insane. If you haven't been there for a really long time, generations, you're there for school. You're there for the Iowa Writers Workshop, which is the #1 MFA program in the United States. Iowa City, despite it being in Iowa, and I know people like to be haters on the Midwest and call it a flyover state, but it ain't a flyover state for Caitlin fucking Clark. I think that that's what is most important to me to really delve into here is the community that Iowa City is and the state that Iowa is. It's allowed Caitlin Clark to, I don't know, I'm not sure that this would have happened at another school. I'm just not sure she would have had the same community behind her. I think the fan base probably, sure, she goes to North Carolina or Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the one that she chose not to go to. Last minute decision, thank God. I think that without that, it would have been a different scene had she gone to any of these other schools. There's something really special about the Iowa fan base, whether it's for women's basketball, which has always been hot. This isn't new, and that's what I think is really important also to touch on. Iowa women's basketball has always been good. I think Lisa Bluter, in her 25 years there as a head coach, has had maybe one losing season. One losing record. And she's had incredible basketball players have come out of Iowa. Megan Gustafson, 2019. I believe she won the Naismith that year.
But when you say this isn't new.
This isn't new. Iowa women's basketball is not a new phenomenon. It's not a newly exciting program to watch. Caitlin is special. She makes Iowa women's basketball. She put it on the map more. I think that it's not new that Iowa women are good at basketball. We've had great players.
Yeah, so it's a storied program, but in terms of the newness, I think there are a lot more people tuning in now because of the impact that Caitlin Clark has had on the game, on the program. You got me following last year. It was an interesting moment. You're telling me about it and like you have to watch. And so I started watching, and it's one of these, like, it reminded me of actually watching a game with Michael Jordan in the 90s when I was a little kid. And I would tune into WGN in my basement in Conyers, Georgia, and I would be so stoked because all the lights would go out and then the spotlights would go on and the intros would get called. You never knew night to night what he was going to do, how many points he was going to put up, but you knew that he was always going to have a good game. He was always going to do something silly, and it's must-see TV every single regular season game, which I haven't felt that in the NBA since, really.
No.
And the only time that I've felt the need to tune into every game to see what a player's going to do is with a select few athletes throughout sports. And like I mentioned, Michael Jordan's one. I used to love following Tiger Woods because of just the insane stats he would put up.
Yeah.
And same with Caitlin Clark. It's she's a generational athlete, and I believe that's the case. And you made an interesting point with the Iowa fan base because they are incredibly...
They travel insane.
Very well. Like football, for example, if you're playing a bowl game in Florida, it's going to be an Iowa home game almost. So you have very loyal fans, and Caitlin would have had this... I don't know if it's the same impact because the numbers are the numbers. Her talent is her talent. But I think it is a very interesting point that the Iowa fan base has really been a huge amplifier in terms of selling out, obviously, all the home games and also traveling well and selling out most of her road games, which for a lot of these programs is unheard of on the women's side.
And even that, though, is part of it is those fans in those places like at Nebraska, at Minnesota, they are going to their home games, but we know why they're going. They're going to watch Caitlin, and it's not even a bad thing. It doesn't have to be like you're a crap fan because you're just going to watch Caitlin. You're going to watch the best women's basketball player of all time. And I think it's interesting when you said that Michael Jordan's always going to have a good game. That's what you said. Caitlin's worst games are everybody else's best games they've ever played in their fucking life.
I saw the stat in the Sweet 16, and there's a stat that popped up after she scored 20 points, and I think it said 47th game in a row with 20-plus points.
Yep.
You are going to tune in. Whether she's scoring 20 points and putting up 15 assists, she's almost at a triple-double averaging. It's pretty wild, and it's not just scoring, it's the whole impact that she has on a game.
So, yeah, like you said, the impact she's had on the game, sure, her talent doesn't change. Maybe even better recruiting classes at places like Notre Dame, places like, again, fuck UConn because they didn't even call it.
Yeah, Gino, what are you doing?
What are you, dude?
And now he's in the press conference saying, clearly, Paige is the best player in the country, stats-wise. It's like, okay, well, yeah, if you're looking at the stats for the NCAA tournament, you're looking at the smallest sample size you can look at. Sure.
Yeah, and she's got 5-star recruits or whatever.
Yeah, the talent she's surrounded by is much greater, I would say, than Iowa's starting five. But yeah. no discredit to Paige.
No, she's insane too.
She's filthy.
She's super good. But yeah, just thinking about it wouldn't have, in my opinion, she would have still impacted the game. I think she might have still been absolutely sensational. But I do think that the Iowa fan base, getting behind someone that, she went to Dowling, she's from Des Moines, she couldn't be more Iowan. And there's nothing that an Iowan fan loves more than a player that stays in Iowa.
Homegrown.
And that's huge for what she chose to do by committing to Iowa. Lisa Bluter had been watching her since middle school, and approaching, if I can offer you a scholarship now, I would. And I think that recognizing the impact she would have if she chose to stay in her home state, being surrounded by potentially less, no discredit to the Iowa women's basketball team, but potentially less talented recruiting.
Yeah.
But knowing, just believing in herself that much too, that she would elevate that game and how she would elevate the players around her. I think that if you are an athlete and competing at a high level, high D1 level, and you are from the state of Iowa, you are a workhorse. You want to work, you're putting in the time, you're in the gym. Thinking about even the Iowa wrestling program, what Dan Gable's done for, his entire career. He's, I would say, other than maybe Cale Sanderson, also at Iowa State. They want to put the time, they want to put the effort into growing their home state, their home community. They want to put all of that work back into the community. And I think this is also a reason why it's so easy to root for these Iowans and these Iowa teams, is you have these little small world interactions that I do think are really impossible elsewhere. In bigger cities, bigger teams, you're not going to... The small worldness of Iowa, too, is a big component of it. Iowa City is a small community. I want to say 100,000 people live there. Living there and having graduated from there, I spent a couple of years there. Everybody wants to help each other in this community. Yeah, just thinking about, had another job out by the reservoir, and it was at this awesome place called Funcrest. My best friend in the world, Josie Newman, I met out there. And Lisa Bluter would come by and get her Funcrest ice cream during the summertime, and she couldn't be nicer. She couldn't be more genuine, more sincere. They're easy to root for because they are genuinely sincere, kind people that just want want to play their best, do their best, treat everybody with kindness no matter what. And like there's frustrations that happen. I know everyone got kind of tough on Lisa Bluter after that loss to Nebraska, and she was like, this is bullshit, trying to catch my flight. But she gets an eternal pass from me because people are allowed to get frustrated. Caitlin's frustrations on the court. She's 22 years old.
Yeah.
I was doing the most whack ass shit when I was 22, living in downtown Iowa City. I was trying to finish my degree. I was working some moonlighting at a place, shout out Martinis. They'd let me pick up a couple shifts. It's just, yeah, Iowa City is truly one of the greatest places in the world. And I think it's a huge reason the state of Iowa, but specifically Iowa City, is a huge reason why Caitlin has had the success that she's had.
Yeah. But I think with that, like you think about like, Iowans supporting Iowans. And I think you're right. You also develop family and fans for life by going to an Iowa school, growing up in Iowa.
And it's funny because I've always found in her interviews, she's really passionate about giving all the credit to her fans and family and community. At first, I remember thinking, how has she already had extensive media training? Why is she so good at speaking to them?
So sharp.
She doesn't have off moments when she is being interviewed, which is insane to me. She, even last year, like what were you thinking when the shot went in? Holly Rowe asking. Yeah. Honestly, I thought it was money. Like, she's got one-liner. She's great with media. She's earnest. And then it's not redundant. Whenever she says, like, we really are a family here. Yeah. My teammates are my family. And you watch them in practice. You watch them goof around. There's no separation there. I know very little about the other women's teams, but from what I've seen, I don't know that there is a program that harnesses the family dynamic as much as Iowa does. And if you really if you're committed and you are someone who wants to work hard and you want to be a part of a team, Iowa is a place that will enhance that by a million.
She's always giving credit to her teammates. She's always, obviously she's got a level of notoriety that others on the team don't have. All those cool moments that she gets meeting somebody, meeting a celebrity, she's always so fast to include her teammates in that, which I think is really cool. She's truly a team player, and I think going into the next level to Indiana Fever, most likely, man, I think everybody's going to be super excited to watch. I think it's going to be a big deal for the WNBA, for the Fever. I think it's just going to bring so many more eyeballs to the W.
Yeah.
2 back-to-back number 1 picks for the Fever, getting Aaliyah Boston last year and Caitlin Clark this year. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
A young squad.
And people talked for, there's a couple years there where we had Monica Cesano on the inside and she was great. They had such a good connection. But the thought of Caitlin Clark looking down the court and seeing Aaliyah Boston
Gonna be
like this,
fantastic,
waiting to catch the ball and do a little pump fake. It's too exciting. Honestly, for me, it's too exciting. It makes me breathless, nervous, excited, very, very nervous about the level of excitement.
Yeah, I think there's some interesting dynamics looking towards Caitlin going to the WNBA. I think it'll be really interesting. Obviously, she's brought the most eyeballs to the sport in a long time. I don't think that's in question. I think people are watching college women's basketball at an unprecedented level. Yeah. It's insane. So what I'm curious on is, as Caitlin goes into the WNBA, she's the rookie. She's the young one there. You have all of these vets that have been playing at a very high level and have done incredible things in the sport as well, but just hasn't gotten the eyeballs that Caitlin's been able to get. Is there going to be a level of bitterness? Is she going to be welcomed? What's the dynamic going to be with the teammates on the Fever?
Right.
There's a lot of interesting dynamics, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
It's not as flashy, as exciting, because no one before has been shooting threes from the logo without heaving the ball. It's a jump shot for her. It's something she practiced. But that's the thing, is when there is this kind of chip on the shoulder from some of these players, even that Kelsey Plum tweet being congrats girl, and then being oh shoot, thought you had it, next one or whatever. And I saw an interview with her where she's she's gonna have to prove herself in this game, blah blah blah. I think that is all fair.
That's super fair.
That's super fair. She's got to come into a league where she's surrounded by players, not necessarily, in my opinion, of equal talent to her. These are bigger girls. They're stronger girls. Their frames are different. They're They are women playing this
want
shit.
to see them come after her.
Same.
I want it to.
I want to see her tested.
100%.
I want to see her emotions tested, and I think she's gonna have. I think she's got a hot temper, so that's gonna be interesting to see how she handles that.
I'm gonna push her.
They're gonna get into her head. The shit talk is gonna be insane and
so
awesome.
Fun. It's gonna be so fun.
There's a difference between a white girl from Nebraska calling you corn-fed and if that gets her agitated, it's gonna be different when these are people that ball. But I also think there's going to be a team behind her. You got Aaliyah Boston, and she was Rookie of the Year last year. And there's still that cute-ass interview between the two of them where she's asking her about, maybe we play together. And I'm like, oh my God, please, that would be so insane. It'd just be the coolest thing. So hopefully that's what happens. But yeah, I don't feel good about the fact that women's basketball, they're still grossly underpaid. But people aren't... The media, they're not watching it.
Starting salary for Caitlin next year is going to be what? Like 76,000 or something?
76.
Yeah. So just a little bit about me for a very brief second is I play pickleball professionally, and I would say the top 20 pro pickleball players all make more than that from the league, which to me is insane considering that we have higher salaries than Caitlin Clark. I mean, obviously she gets all of the
NIL deals.
Yeah, all of the sponsorships, certainly more than we do because the whole world's watching her and literally 0 people are watching us.
And that's, I think, the thing that the vets and people in the league are probably going to have a hard time reckoning with. But they should, quite frankly, be saying thank you so much to Caitlin Clark because who knows, maybe their salaries go up because people are finally watching their sport. I don't know necessarily. This is just my opinion. I don't know what I think there's going to be a stark contrast in viewership on her games versus just any other regular WNBA game. And I think that's just the reality of it. People are drawn to watching this individual because even
just talking about like Caitlin's impact on everybody else in the league and all of that. I don't remember who it was. There was a pro golfer that retired maybe in like the early 2000s. And he was just like, I am so grateful that Tiger Woods came into this game because I got paid so much more money than I would have otherwise. And I think that's going to be the same kind of impact that Caitlin's going to have on the WNBA, where everybody else has, pay's going to go up. More people are watching.
More opportunities.
Even like, obviously, I think Caitlin brought people in, but I mean, even if you look at this Final Four, you've got Juju Watkins, who is incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah.
She's so smooth.
God, she's just a freshman.
Paige Beckers, who's really fun to watch. And these are people I didn't know of before coming in because of Caitlin. Angel Reese, that rivalry that we're going to see is, I mean, it's so fun. It's going to raise everybody.
Yeah.
Because now I know who these people are, the other players, and I wouldn't have known that otherwise.
And I think it's sad, too, though, for the men's side of things, is that the only time I'm excited to watch men's basketball is going through Twitter and watching viral moments like the guy Horn from NC State going,
oh, it's so good,
to the ref. And yeah, he got in big shit for that. That was an insane game. I think we gotta, I'm for more of that.
Yeah.
I'm for more of this happening. I know everyone's like, oh, but they have to be good role models. They're being good role models 99% of the time. They're also, you have to take into account these people are children.
Yeah.
They're children. They can't even drink yet.
They don't look it. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
They look gigantic.
To you and I.
I certainly didn't look like that in college. I look like a child.
I looked like basically like Gollum with a blonde wig. I was ratting myself around Iowa City, just doing the most ratchet of shit.
Who's this little creature?
Yeah, just getting locked in poncheros for start. Who knows? Those were the olden days, so I certainly don't do any of that now. But I think that's something everyone's got a lot of opinions about. The on-court antics, the fighting. Do I think you should be swinging on people? Absolutely not. I don't think that. I think that's too much.
I thought you were going to say absolutely.
No, I'm not going. I don't think a haymaker from behind is fair. That's not a fair fight.
They're just competing.
They're
out there just being kids and competing.
Yeah, but
let them swing.
But that's the thing. Do we let prison rules? Maybe.
Yeah. This was supposed to be an intro episode where we talk about what the podcast is going to be about, but I think you see what the podcast is going to be about because.
But yeah, I think Caitlin Clark is the coolest person on the planet.
She's making an insane impact on the game, on women's sports as a whole. I think it's been a long time coming, but I think this surge with Caitlin is really going to bring just more eyeballs to women's sports. I'm having a blast watching it. It's so fun. So if there's other guys out there that are adverse to watching women's sports, just watch a Caitlin game.
Yeah, watch her worst game. There's a sweet young man who plays pickleball. Shout out to Hugo, Pickleball Hugo. One night, I've been pretty outrageous on my Instagram, posting things about Caitlin Clark every time she plays. And finally, there's one time he responded to my story and was like, I guess I'm going to watch this game now because you're a psychopath and you always are talking about this person. And like, why would I watch this game? And I was like, just do yourself a favor, watch. Maybe was it the Big Ten championship?
Yeah, and it was like,
It was not a great game for Kate. It wasn't a great game for her.
But she still scored 25.
Halftime happened. She had 4 points to start. And 4 points first half, 30 points second half. And he responded and was like, holy shit, I get it. I'm watching every game from now on because she is a competitor.
Attaboy, Hugo.
But it's just watching. I think we're watching not just, generational talent, but possibly individually the greatest athlete of all time.
Let's leave it there. You see what this podcast is about? Clarkonomics podcast.
Go Hawks. And go Iowa football still. I love the Hawkeyes.
Always good defense.
Always great defense. We love the Ferentz family. Go Hawks.